Hi friends, and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at how to turn this guy into a grimdark, battle-worn Astartes. I also decided to experiment with sponge painting, and you can try too. This that I'm using is simply a makeup sponge, and you can find it at very cheap prices basically in any general stores. As you can see, it gives a really cool effect, though it's not always easy to reach every spot. So at some point, I switched to a dry brush to cover the rest of the armor. Just a quick note, I've opened a small donation page. This hobby takes both time and a bit of money, so if you'd like to support the channel, that would mean a lot. You'll find the link in the description, but of course, just being here already helps more than you think. Once I was happy with the base color, I moved on to highlighting. Using a lighter tone of the same color really helps bring out those details. A good tip is to focus your sponging on the areas where you want the lighting to hit the model. Although it looked pretty good already, I wasn't fully satisfied, so in a small fit of madness, I decided to cover the model with a very light wash. I didn't want to hide all the work I'd done, just tone it down a little. And in the end, with a light dry brush on top, it turned out great. Next up, we can move on to the rest of the details. Using Black Legion, I covered the joints, the backpack thrusters, and of course the weapon. Applying a contrast paint over the yellow base keeps the tone nice and warm, and I think it really worked out well. Then I moved on to the metallics. There aren't many on this model, but adding even a few shiny parts make a huge difference in the final look. Before continuing, I also took some time to highlight the rest of the model. Not just the armor with flash kits, but also the gun using a grey dry brush. At first, I considered going with red for the heraldries, but I was afraid it'd be too bright. So instead, I used a bronze-like metallic. It gives that reddish hue without being too flashy. With some Nuln Oil, I darkened a few spots I'd messed up during the dry brushing and added more contrast overall. Then I used Agrax Earthshade on the bronze parts to keep those warmer metallic tones. A quick dry brush with a light silver on the metallics gives that worn out metal effect, and it's also a great chance to add a few highlight scratches here and there. Now, using a bigger sponge, in this case my trusty kitchen sponge, we can add more damage and dirt to the armor, making it look even more grim and battle-worn. For the next step, I like using a big brush, even though a thinner one would work. Using only the tip gives you the fine control for scratches and edge details. And the silver color here makes it look like the paint has been scraped down to bare metal. Once I was happy with that, I moved on to the eyes. I've made a few videos where I work on different kind of eyes before, so feel free to check those out. For this model, I went with a simple bright red style, and it turned out great, adding a strong focal point to the face. Now onto the base. I used the classic 32mm base and started decorating it by gluing a piece of cork sheet on top. Then I added a skull and some ground texture to build up the scene. Using pieces of paper clips, I made broken bits of metal frame for extra detail. After priming everything in dark gray, I dry brushed it with light gray to bring out the texture. Then, using a really old brush, I added random brown patches for a more natural look. For the skull, I base coated it in sundry dust, then gave it a quick dry brush of wraithbone to pop those details. Even though I could have stopped there, I decided to add some silver touches to the metal parts for extra shine. With that done, it's time to glue our Astartes onto the base and give it some final touches. Using some engine effects, I added grimy tones to the armor. And to better blend the model to the base, I also did some grey dry brushing on the legs for a more dusty look. I also did another quick pass of chipping and weathering just to make sure there was enough and the engine effect hadn't covered any of it. To make sure everything blended nicely together, I applied a bit of Agrex Earthshade, but only where needed, not across the whole model. At this point, I felt the base was missing something, so I grabbed some of those metal ties you get on bread bags to make some barbed wire. Just peel off the plastic carefully, and be careful not to hurt yourself. Bend the wire in half, make a small loop, hook it into a brush handle or something similar, and twist it around. Once you're done, twist it again all around the brush and then cut off the loop. And there you go, instant barbed wire for your bases. Really takes a minute or so. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm really happy with how the channel is growing day by day. And don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps. And if you'd like to support the channel a little extra, there's a small donation link in the description. Totally optional, but it would really help this project going. And as always, thank you so much and see you next time. Bye friends.